You know, plants are basically the invisible engines running our entire world, but how exactly do they grow, breathe, and, well, literally shape the planet we live on? Welcome to Adhyayanam, your go-to spot for making science super easy to understand. If you're a focused learner looking to master complex topics without the headache, you're absolutely in the right place. Be sure to hit subscribe to Adhyayanam, and hey, for comprehensive study material, structured courses and test series, just visit our website at www.adhyayanam.co.in. I'm super excited to be your guide today, so let's get right into it. In today's explainer, we've got a great lineup. We're going to start with plant tissues and growth, move into the absolute magic of photosynthesis, explore respiration and transpiration, and then zoom way out to the global carbon cycle. And stick around because we're finishing up with an Adhyayanam practice test to lock in what you've learned. Section 1. Plant tissues and growth. Let's dive right in and look at the basic building blocks of our stationary friends. So think about it. Plants don't move around to find food or shelter like we do, which completely changes how they grow. Unlike animals that kind of grow uniformly all over, plants actually only grow in very specific spots. These active dividing regions act as the plant's main growth engine, and we call them meristematic tissue. You've got the apical meristem right at the growing tips of the roots and stems. That's for increasing length. Then there's the lateral meristem or cambium, which increases the plant's girth or thickness. And finally, the intercalary meristem, located at the nodes, which is what helps leaves and twigs expand outwards. Now, as those meristematic cells mature, they go through a neat process called differentiation. Basically, they take on specific jobs, they lose their ability to keep dividing, and they become what we call permanent tissues. Remember how we said plants don't move? Well, that means they need immense structural support to stand tall against wind and gravity. So they rely heavily on these tough, often completely dead permanent tissues for raw mechanical strength. It's pretty smart, actually. Dead tissue requires almost zero maintenance, while the living meristematic tissues get to focus entirely on actively dividing and growing. Moving right along to Section 2, the magic of photosynthesis. Let's see how those cellular building blocks pull off the process that literally jump-started life on Earth about 4 billion years ago. Here's the absolutely crucial point. Plants are the ultimate self-sustaining manufacturers. What you're looking at is basically the fundamental chemical equation of life itself. A plant grabs 6 molecules of carbon dioxide right out of the air, mixes them with 6 molecules of water pulled up from the soil, and uses light energy from the sun to cook up one single molecule of glucose sugar. And the best part? Doing this releases 6 molecules of pure oxygen as a beautiful, life-giving byproduct. That one little sugar molecule literally drives the entire living world. How cool is that? Now, a question we get all the time is, hey, if a plant has deep purple or bright red leaves, is it still photosynthesizing? And the answer is an absolute yes. Sure, chlorophyll is the famous green pigment, but plants also pack other pigments, like red lycopene, orange carotene, and yellow zeaxanthin. In non-green plants, the chlorophyll is just hiding behind those other vibrant colors. In fact, we actually get to see these hidden pigments unmasked in the autumn. When a tree starts shutting down its chlorophyll production for the winter, all those brilliant shades of red and gold are finally revealed. If we really zoom in, like right into the chloroplasts, inside the leaf cells, photosynthesis actually happens in 2 distinct steps. First up are the light reactions. These take place in the thylakoid membranes, which have a massive surface area just for absorbing sunlight and splitting water to release oxygen. Then, step 2, the carbon or dark reactions, which happen in the stroma. This is where the plant uses a super important enzyme called rubisco to actually fix that carbon dioxide into usable carbohydrates. It's a real biological assembly line. But you know, nature is incredibly adaptable. Depending on where they live, plants evolved some brilliant variations of this whole process. About 95% of the plants on Earth are what we call C3 plants. But in hotter, tougher environments, we see C4 plants like corn and crabgrass. And then there are the CAM plants. These are your desert survivors, like cacti and succulents. They do something amazing. They cleverly keep their leaf pores, their stomata, completely shut tight during the scorching hot day. Why? Just to stop precious water from evaporating into the dry desert air. All right, Section 3, respiration and transpiration. Here we're going to tackle 2 vital systems that run right alongside photosynthesis, how plants transport their water and how they actually burn their fuel. It's so interesting to see how photosynthesis and respiration act as basically opposite reactions inside the plant. Think of photosynthesis as a building process in the chloroplasts, using light to make food and oxygen. Respiration, on the flip side, is a breaking down process happening over in the mitochondria. It takes those exact same carbohydrates, uses oxygen, and burns them for the chemical energy the plant needs to grow, releasing carbon dioxide and water right back out. It's a perfect loop. One system makes the food, and the other one eats it. Meanwhile, we have transpiration. This is the constant movement of water up from the roots, traveling through the stem's xylem tubes and evaporating out through the leaves. Because plant cells are mostly water and actually a little bit leaky, transpiration is what pulls water up to maintain something called turgor pressure. That's what keeps the whole plant rigid and standing up straight. Think of a plant cell like an inflated car tire with a really slow puncture. It needs constant, continuous water uptake. If transpiration stops, the plant deflates and wilts almost immediately. That brings us to Section 4, the global carbon cycle. We've looked at microscopic tissues and cellular chemistry, but now let's zoom way out and see how these tiny little plant processes affect our entire planet. So let's talk about gross primary productivity, or GPP. Simply put, GPP is the total amount of atmospheric carbon dioxide that plants fix through photosynthesis over a specific area of land. Think about a huge forest. Every single leaf in that forest is contributing to this productivity. They're acting like massive biological vacuums, literally pulling carbon right out of our atmosphere and storing it in terrestrial ecosystems. This makes them absolutely critical, literally essential, for regulating our global climate.
But here's the really wild part. That carbon doesn't just stay up in the leaves. The plant actively partitions it. It ships these carbon-rich sugars down into its stems and, crucially, deep into its roots. From there, a fraction of this carbon actually oozes out into the soil, feeding these incredibly complex networks of fungi and bacteria. It's basically a massive underground trade agreement. The microbes get to eat the plant's photosynthetically fixed carbon, and in exchange, they break down soil minerals to hand over vital nutrients and water to the plant. Teamwork at its finest.
And finally, Section 5, Adhyayanam, practice test. All right, students, we have covered a ton of fascinating ground today. Now it's time to test your knowledge with our practice section. Let's see just how much of this you've retained. First up, a multiple-choice question. Why is it so absolutely important for a farmer or a gardener to wait for warm soil before planting seeds in the spring? Is it A, to prevent water loss? B, because respiration is too low in cold soil to metabolize the seed's reserves? Or C, because cold soil destroys chlorophyll? Take a quick second to think about it. All right, the correct answer is B. Respiration goes way up with higher temperatures. If the dirt is just too cold, the seed's respiration rate stays too low to burn its stored energy, and it literally just can't germinate. Awesome. Next, let's try an open-ended question. Think back to our desert friends. Can you tell me why cam plants, like your household succulents or desert cacti, keep their leaf pores, their stomata, completely closed tight while the sun is up?
Well, if you said something along the lines of, to prevent massive water loss in a super hot environment, you nailed it. If they open their stomata during a blazing 100-degree afternoon, they dry out and die instantly through transpiration. So they cleverly wait until the cool, dark night to open their pores and take a deep breath of the carbon dioxide they're going to need for the next day's photosynthesis. Okay, let's finish up with a real-world case study. Imagine a farmer calls you out to his field for a consultation. He says, look, my plants are turning yellow, they aren't producing anything anymore, and it looks like they've just completely stopped photosynthesizing. What do you think is going on? Think structurally here for a second. Based on what we just learned about the dark reactions of photosynthesis inside the chloroplast stroma, what crucial enzyme is failing and what specific soil nutrient is most likely missing from this farmer's field? The culprit here is a severe lack of nitrogen. See, the plant desperately needs nitrogen to build rubisco, which is the major enzyme of the dark reaction, and actually it's the most abundant protein in all plants everywhere. If there's no nitrogen, there's no rubisco, and without rubisco, there's zero carbon fixing, the plant just turns yellow, gives up, and stops producing. You completely aced the test. I really hope this explainer on plant physiology has been as fun for you as it was for me. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. If microscopic root interactions can quietly store vast amounts of atmospheric carbon deep underground for thousands of years, what other incredible, completely natural climate secrets are just waiting to be discovered right beneath our feet? Our soil is literally alive, and it might just hold the key to our future. Keep studying, keep asking great questions, and I will see you next time right here on Adhyayanam.